Okay, let's take a look at two logical reasoning questions. Question 7, I'll read it out loud. President of Central Supply Company. Profits are at an all-time low this fiscal year because of decreased demand for our products. If this situation continues, the company may have to declare bankruptcy, so it is important to prevent any further decrease in profits. Consequently, the only options are to reduce planned expansion or to eliminate some less profitable existing operations. Which of the following most accurately describes a flaw in the company president's reasoning? So when you're looking at a question like this, there are a couple of things to pay attention to. One, you want to figure out what exactly is the question asking you. Which one of the following most accurately describes a flaw in the company president's reasoning? A question like this is asking you to figure out essentially what is wrong with the conclusion. Why is the conclusion incorrect based on the premises that you're given? So in order to figure that out, we need to figure out what part of this question is premise, what part of this question is conclusion. What exactly does the conclusion say? So when we go into the question, we see certain words that sort of jump out at us. One of those words, one of these conclusion words that signal that we're about to read a conclusion, is the word consequently. You may see consequently, as a result of, it follows that, therefore. These are similar words, and when you see something like that, you want to highlight them to make sure that you are paying attention to what follows. So consequently, the question reads, the only options are to reduce planned expansion or to eliminate some less profitable existing operations. Here, another red flag that you may see is the word only. When you see words like only, things that limit the universe of options, LSAT testers like to throw in those kind of words because they affect the way that you read the question. So when you see something that says consequently the only options, that means that in order for the reasoning, for the conclusion to be correct, the premises must directly lead to the conclusion. And if it doesn't do so, then the conclusion is obviously incorrect. So what we're looking for is an answer between A through E that really deals with the conclusion, not necessarily attacking the premises. You want to find an answer that explains why the conclusion is incorrect. So the answer to question 7 is answer E. We're going to go through the incorrect answers first, and then we'll review the correct answer afterwards. Option A reads, it presumes without giving justification that the survival of the company has been a good thing. This one we can eliminate because it is irrelevant to the conclusion. The fact that the company survives is a good thing. This question is not about any kind of qualifying determination. There's no judgment here, judgment call of whether it's good or not good to keep the company out of bankruptcy and to prevent the further decreases of profits. It's just, these are the options, these are the things that are happening to the company. So the fact that the answer says that it is a good thing or a bad thing, throwing a qualification onto it, a judgment onto it, is a good indicator that that answer is incorrect. So A is wrong. B, it does not take into account that there are alternatives to declaring bankruptcy. This is a close answer. However, the question itself reads, the sentence that deals with the bankruptcy reads, if this situation continues, the company may have to declare bankruptcy. So B is incorrect as well. B says it does not take into account that there are alternatives to declaring bankruptcy. The question does take into account that there are alternatives to declaring bankruptcy because, again, the company president says that the company may have to declare bankruptcy, not that it must declare bankruptcy. So that is another thing that you want to be paying attention to in these questions, these may versus must, the imperatives versus the options. So B is an incorrect answer. Next, C, it presumes without giving justification that only decreased demand can ever be the cause of decreased profit. Here again, we see that word only. Only, what does only mean? only decreased demands can ever be the cause of decreased profits. Again, that is not what this question is saying. The premises don't say that only decreased demand can ever be the cause of decreased profits. It's just giving a scenario in which profits are at a low because of decreased demand for the product. So option C is incorrect. Option D does not allow for the possibility that profits will increase only slightly during the next fiscal year. Similar to option B, the question, the statement is not saying that it doesn't allow for the profits. It does in fact allow for the possibility that profits will decrease only slightly over the next year, because again, you see in the premise, you see words like may, it is important. These types of phrases indicate that it's not an imperative. It's not something like only, which means that there are only two options. So D is incorrect. And E, of course, is the correct answer. It does not take into account that there may be other ways to stop the decrease in profits. Here you see that the conclusion is incorrect because the premise is that profits are at an all-time low because of decreased demand, that if that situation continues, the company may have to declare bankruptcy, that it's important to prevent further decreases of profits. Those three things do not lead to the only two options being to reduce planned expansion or to eliminate less profitable existing operations. So E is the correct answer for this question. All right, now let's take a look at question number 8. Question number 8 reads, calories consumed in excess of those with which the body needs to be provided to maintain its weight are normally stored as fat and the body gains weight. Alcoholic beverages are laden with calories. However, here's another conclusion word, however, those people who regularly drink 2 or 3 alcoholic beverages a day and thereby exceed the caloric intake necessary to maintain their weight do not, in general, gain weight. And the question reads, which of the following, if true, most helps to resolve the apparent discrepancy? Here again, we're trying to figure out what does the question say? What is the question asking us for? And here the question is asking us to resolve the apparent discrepancy. And so what that means is that as written, the conclusion is not correctly drawn from the premise. So what premise needs to be added? What new fact, what new information needs to be added to the premises to lead the person who's speaking to the conclusion that's given? As is, the conclusion does not lead from the premise. We have to add another premise to do that. So we have to figure out which of these options, A through E, is the correct premise that, if true, and added to the statement, would make the conclusion correct. All right, so A. First of all, the correct answer is B here, and B is sort of a surprising answer for reasons that we'll talk about in a minute. But option A is incorrect. Some people who regularly drink 2 or 3 alcoholic beverages a day avoid exceeding the caloric intake necessary to maintain their weight by decreasing caloric intake from other sources. This one seems very correct. It seems correct, but it's wrong because it actually misstates what is going on in the question. The answer says that they avoid gaining weight because they decrease their caloric intake from other sources. However, the question says that these people, the people who regularly drink 2 or 3 alcoholic beverages a day and thereby exceed the caloric intake necessary to maintain their weight, option A is negating one of the premises of the question. So that one is an incorrect answer. B is the correct answer. C, some people who do not drink alcoholic beverages but who eat high-calorie foods do not gain weight. This answer is wrong because it's not relevant to this question. We're not talking about people who eat high-calorie foods. What we're talking about, the conclusion, the stuff that follows the however, is talking about those people who regularly drink 2 or 3 alcoholic beverages a day. For that same reason, option D is incorrect. Many people who regularly drink more than 3 alcoholic beverages a day do not gain weight. We're not talking about people who drink more than 3 alcoholic beverages a day. We're talking about people who drink 2 or 3 alcoholic beverages a day. So D is also incorrect. E is incorrect. Some people who take in fewer calories than normally necessary to make some people who take in fewer calories than are normally necessary to maintain their weight do not lose weight. Again, this is not a relevant point. We're not talking about those types of people. We're looking at people who regularly drink 2 or 3 alcoholic beverages a day. B is the correct answer and is a little counterintuitive. B reads, excess calories consumed by people who regularly drink 2 or 3 alcoholic beverages a day tend to be dissipated as heat. The reason that you may be tripped up on this answer is it sounds absurd from just a human perspective. You know, if you know anything about exercising or calories or dieting, anything like that, you might immediately dismiss this as untrue. It's not scientifically correct, or may not be scientifically correct. However, when it comes to these LSAT logical reasoning questions, you have to divorce yourself from what you already know, the information, the facts, things that you may already know from real life. You have to divorce yourself from those things and read the question as is. It has to be the way that the question is framed, and in the way that the question is framed. So you must take these things as true. The things that they write, you must take them as true, even if you know that in real life those things are not true. So when you take this as true, excess calories consumed by people who regularly drink 2 or 3 alcoholic beverages a day tend to be dissipated as heat. This resolves the discrepancy. It's talking about people who regularly drink 2 or 3 alcoholic beverages a day. It is directly acknowledging that the excess calories, we're dealing with excess caloric intake. And what happens with the excess caloric intake according to option B? They tend to be dissipated as heat, which means that the excess caloric intake that they have is because it's dissipated as heat, it doesn't stay in the body as fat, and so then the body does not gain weight. And that's why B is the correct answer for this. So again, when you're looking at these kind of questions, and you know something about the subject matter of the question, you have to divorce it, you have to put it aside, and you have to read the question very carefully to see, to make sure that what you're answering is not based on sort of intuitive knowledge, but on the actual words of the question. And the LSAT will throw these kind of things at you frequently. So just be very vigilant about these things.